diamond frost, one that is in a lot of nurseries right now. I actually don't know what the specific is on that. I don't know what they bred that from, but it's actually, they sell it as an annual, and it's a tough perennial, actually. If you treat it right and cut it back hard every year, it actually comes back very nicely. There's also Abelia grandiflora kaleidoscope, which is rather nice foliage in here, and the cold is probably coloring up very nicely. Abelia kaleidoscope is also one of the smaller abelias. It's a shrub from Mexico and Central America, and a lot of them get really quite large, and kaleidoscope actually stays fairly compact. There's also Homescoldia, the Chinese hat plant, this right here, which the flowers don't last terribly long, but the bracts hang on for a long time, and it's really quite, it's a great color. It's this kind of a rusty red color that can go with a lot of things in the garden. And there's also Cantranthum intermedia, which is these little blue button flowers, or purple button flowers. I can't tell under this light, are they blue? Purple blue, okay. Now this light makes them look very purpley. And April Curtis brought this in. This is the two color forms of Talbagia fragrans, and you should come up and smell these if you haven't. Everyone knows Talbagia, the regular one, society garlic, which is all you smell of garlic, but come up and smell these. It's a wonderful cut flower, and if you like this fragrance, it's quite powerful, especially at night. This is Eucalyptus lunata Moon Lagoon. Yeah, Moon Lagoon. Grown obviously for the, probably grown for the cut flower market, I would imagine, because this foliage is really wonderful. Would be really nice in a vase as a contrast to anything.
This is a juvenile foliage. This is a juvenile foliage.
Oh, juvenile foliage on this. Like a lot of the things that are grown for cut flower market, it is a juvenile foliage, and particularly with the eucalyptus. There's the other one that looks like coins, the round coins with a stem that goes right up the middle of them. That's juvenile foliage on that plant. When it gets mature, they're just regular big sickle-shaped leaves like all the other eucalyptus. So I imagine this does the same thing. It has a longer leaf that's so a lot of the eucalyptus, their juvenile leaves are actually used in the cut flower trade. They're quite decorative. Thank you.
I haven't cut it that many. It's about this tall. Every once in a while I cut off pieces, but
How old is it? How long has it been in the garden?
4 years.
Yeah, that's still juvenile foliage on a eucalyptus. So yeah, eventually you may start seeing it if it gets bigger or develops enough of a trunk. You'll start seeing the regular foliage coming out. Hyristegia venesta, the flame vine. There's lots of different names for this flame vine. Nice thing about this is when it blooms in mid-winter here, pretty much, and it is frost tender though, so just a warning, if you do get a frost, you need to plant this in a protected area. Needs sun, needs a moderate amount of water, and it needs to be cut back. Like most vines, needs to be cut back on a regular basis. I actually, when I grew this, I lived in the Hollywood Hills, and when I grew it, I didn't even notice it had wrapped itself on the electrical wire and went all the way across up to the telephone pole. It was a little bit scary. This is Gomphrena decumbens. This is a great thing to grow for working with cut flowers or putting in vases. These are wonderful. They last quite a long time. And this plant is, if you get this in a happy place, it's really easy to grow. Yeah, they get quite stout and will just bloom pretty much all through warm weather. I'm kind of surprised you're getting this time of year, but you probably have she has full sun, I don't, so. But it's a nice color too. It's a really great color to work with because it goes with almost anything. This is Tithonia diversifolia. They call it tree marigold or Mexican daisy. This is from Mexico and Central America, and I have to tell you, I did a tour with Pacific Horticulture to Cuba. It was all over Cuba, on all of the hillsides. It was just golden. It was like a golden haze on the hills. These are big plants too.
Yeah, ours is getting out of hand.
Getting out of hand?
We saw it in Rwanda, which we thought was interesting. And then when I was reading about it for today, it's a fantastic natural fertilizer. So it's used a lot in Africa because it's cheaper than synthetic
It's
fertilizer.
used in Africa as a green fertilizer, so they grow it and cut it down, probably just mulch it into the ground, so they saw it in
Well,
Rwanda.
it fixes nitrogen and phosphorus and stuff in the soil.
Excellent. Oh, it's a nitrogen fixer, I didn't know that.
The reason, as I mentioned, we were in Rwanda in December, and
Take,
very interesting country. It's progressive now, but it's still very poor. Most of the people, it's a communal gardening situation, almost entirely by hand. But the government landscapes all the highways with trees and shrubs, and so these were some of the plants we see so often. This is one of the
Mallows, Turk's cat mallow.
Yeah, it's Malvaviscus
Malvavisca
arboreus.
arboreus, but it's sometimes called the Mexican. The one you're more familiar with is the wreck flowers, the Turk's cat mallow or bishop's cap. But this one has a high attraction for insect-eating birds. No hummingbirds in Africa, so they have honeys.
Sunbirds.
Hummingbirds.
Sunbirds.
Sunbirds have a curved bill and act like hummingbirds. And the common plant we have here, Tetraberry or Pensis, was everywhere. The most common tree planted along the highways was Grevillea robusta, silky oak. There are also a lot of casuarinas. And in town we saw lots of Cassia leptophylla. And the shrub that was most common was a variegated form of Taranta, pigeonberry. Very fascinating. But most of the people work communally, there's probably very little money. Everybody walks, very nice landscape sidewalks. And it's called the land of 1,000 hills. It's really hilly and steep, and people are walking everywhere. And women carry stuff on their hips. So it's fascinating. And the last one I brought in here is just because it seemed to be doing so well in the winter, the fleeting heart fire. Should have stopped doing it.
Yeah, this is Clerodendron. It's Clerodendron thomsoniae. And I want to look that one up. I thought Thomsoniae was the red and white one.
Apparently there's a red form too.
Do you know something about this? Yeah, I don't think this is Thomsoniae. This is splendens, Kathy says, which sounds probably right. Thomsoniae also has a little bit of a fragrance, and this doesn't. The clerodendrons all grow, if you get them in the right spot here, they're very strong growers. They're actually easy to grow, but they do like their water. I just want to go back to the Malvaviscus just for a second because I love one of the common names of this. If you don't know this plant, they look like a hibiscus that hasn't opened. They stay shut. And this one looks like it's a little bit pendant, whereas the one we normally see is upright. But both of them have the common name of Scotchman's purse because they never open. I've always liked that. Kathy, you wanted to come up and talk about this plant, which I can't read her writing, so.
So this is the fruit of Camphorhica acuminata, commonly known as happy tree. Why is it known as happy tree? It's actually a translation of the Chinese common name. So this is a plant that's been studied for a long time for anti-cancer properties. It has a compound in it called camphorhican, and they're still working on it. So I first learned this plant as a nerdy Girl Scout. I went to some Girl Scout weekend fair, and there was some guy giving these out, and I had it in a gallon pot in the backyard patio of my childhood home for many years. I didn't really know what to do with it. Nobody in my family gardened. I mean, I barely gardened as a child. And I don't know, it got kind of big, and then I don't know, maybe finally it died. But actually, I learned this plant as a child and remembered it. And we have one at the Huntington, an old one, in the parking lot area. And I remember that tree, but what I like about it is the fruit. So it blooms in the summer, it has little ball-shaped flowers, but these are the fruits, and they look like little miniature clusters of bananas. And I've always liked to collect them and just have them as dried arrangements around and that. But I was reminded, because it's fruiting now, that I need to grow another crop of these. We used to grow them from our tree and sell them in the plant sale, but I need to grow some and have some backup plants elsewhere in the garden, because not everything lives forever, so. And I'm surprised the wind didn't blow them all off. Usually they've all fallen by December, but the tree's in full fruit right now, so.
Yeah, what else is confused this year?
And it's supposed to be deciduous.
I know,
and it's
a lot of the things that are supposed to be deciduous have not lost their leaves, even in the windstorms. Anyway, thank you all for bringing in the plants tonight for the forum.